Shalom, everyone. Great to be back with you as you begin your American summertime clock. So instead of 3:30 here, it's 2:30, and in Israel it would still be 3:30, but it's okay. But this time Lori made sure to it that I would not be confused, and so I've been preparing all day to show up at 2:30, which would be the right time for you guys, and. Weather here is just very nice now. The cold of the winter ended like in a snap. And now all of a sudden it's getting warm. It's going to be up in the 80s in 3 or 4 days. So it's inching its way into the summer heat, and which is nice, because either way it's nice. We'll go from the heater, central heating to central air conditioning. But we really don't suffer here in Israel with the weather. We're doing good. And anyway, praise God. So good to be with you. I will start with the Houthis in Yemen. They have promised to start tonight a barrage of ballistic missiles being fired at We The Houthis in Yemen said that if Israel doesn't stop the humanitarian aid convoys, we stop them, that they would launch rockets. Meanwhile, we've also stopped the electricity. We stopped the water flow. Things are not good in Gaza. And you would think that Hamas would say, okay, take a few hostages, send them back to Israel. No, they don't take anything seriously, and they really don't, excuse the expression, they really don't give a damn about their own people. And, the world is going to blame Israel anyway. But we want our 59 people dead or alive back. We're hoping that 20-something should be alive still. We don't even know. We don't have numbers. We don't have lists. So all I can say is that I totally support Netanyahu in what he's doing. I totally support Trump in what he's doing. And I'm hoping for a happy ending regarding the hostages. And then at some stage, after the hostages are all returned, maybe this is why they don't want to return them, Israel opens up with the gates of hell opening up. And Hamas is finished. Hamas will be finished. This cannot continue. So we shall see. We shall see what happens with Hamas. The Israeli military has their drones up in the air all the time. And when we see Hamas terrorists planting IEDs, another drone comes up and fires a missile at them and knocks them off. So yesterday, for example, we killed 6 Hamas terrorists who were laying mines along the border with Israel. I think the day before they killed 3 other Hamas terrorists who were also laying mines. They're preparing for an Israeli intervention into Gaza. So we shall see where this all goes. We've talked about this so many times in the last 2 years, since the war began, that Israel is fighting a war on many fronts. And one of our problems on the war on many fronts is that our soldiers are showing mental fatigue. They're just getting harder and harder to call up soldiers. I mean, it's easy to call them up, but it's harder for the soldiers to report for duty. And then endlessly, a month, 2 months, 3 months, be in uniform and be fighting. So we're watching to see. We have, of course, Lebanon could break out into fighting at any time. I know that America and France are the sponsors of what's happening now in Lebanon. The Lebanese military, the Lebanese chief of staff of their army, Aoun, is not Hamas. He's trying to figure out what they're going to do to rein in not the Hamas, the Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah is a mere shadow in Lebanon of what it was. We're watching very carefully. You have to remember, things are very fluid in Lebanon. Why? because the allies of Hezbollah, who were the Druze, are no longer the allies of Hezbollah, at least for now. The Christians, who were the allies of the Hezbollah, they're not the allies anymore, at least for now. The problem is that the Sunnis in Syria are murdering Christians and Druze and Shiites. So there may be some kind of realignment of forces in Lebanon. And you know what? It could be in Syria. It could be that the Druze, who understand that they have nothing to look forward to under the leadership of the al-Julani there in Syria, the Druze are getting massacred. The Christians are getting massacred. The Shiites are getting massacred. Don't forget, these three were the principal backbone of the Bashar al-Assad government. The Bashar al-Assad government killed 500,000 Sunnis, and nobody said anything. The Bashar al-Assad government expelled 5 million Sunnis. So now what's happening is, and I'm not passing a value judgment. I know I got an email from a very dear friend of mine in Texas, and she said, I went with them up to the border with the Golan Heights, where the Sunnis were in control, when it was the Shiites who were murdering the Sunnis, and now she sees the reverse is happening, that the Sunnis are murdering the Shiites and the Christians and the Druze. And so it made her very, very upset. I said to her, listen, this is the Middle East. Don't you think that they would want to kill all the Jews if they could? And the only thing that keeps the peace here is that Israel has a very strong military now. Praise God, we have a President, Trump, who is behind us all the way. Unlike Biden, who maybe Biden might at some time have been a friend of Israel, but he was under the control of the Obama people, one world government people. God forbid that Kamala Harris could have won the elections. So, Israel is relatively in a fantastic situation now. Like I said before, our only real problem is the exhaustion of the Israeli military. Don't forget, our troops are in Gaza, our troops are in Judea and Samaria, our troops are on the border with Lebanon, ready for action. Our troops have faced a new situation in Syria, which does not look good for the future. At this stage, the Sunni government of the terrorist Julani is trying to say to Israel, no, we're going to be friends, we're going to be peace, and blah, blah, blah. And we don't believe that for a moment. What we do know is that the Druze in southern Syria have sworn allegiance to Israel. We are going to give jobs to the Druze in Suwaida. We are going to be bringing them into the Golan Heights. We need labor. We need people to come and work. Golan Heights is pretty much Druze, so it would be very natural for the Druze of Suwaida and the 6 villages next to the Golan Heights to come in. That'll be interesting. I still haven't given up my fantasy of going up to Majd al-Sam near Mount Hermon and going to have coffee with some Druze people from Syria and maybe get some Syrian coins or currency notes. Seems like an impossible dream, but it's just what things I dream about. As I said, I don't know if I said it to you guys last week or if it was the Thursday group. There's a village 5 kilometers or 3 miles to the east of Damascus called Germana, and it's half Druze, half Christian. And the al-Julani group wanted to come and kill them, and Israel intervened. And so they made a deal that village was spared but because of the presence of the Israelis. So the Druze know that in all these pockets in Syria where there are Druze populations, or perhaps Druze and Christian populations, they will be protected by Israel. I think Israel is very careful not to say, oh, we're going to protect the Christians also. Don't forget the vast majority of the Christians are in Damascus. So it's less complicated for us to say, okay, we will protect the Druze, because the Druze have good brethren waiting for them on the Israeli side to protect them. So things are looking good. Now, something which complicated issues today was that, if you remember, I've spoken a number of times about this Kurdish state that I've been predicting will happen. Well, something happened that doesn't make any sense in my book. The Kurds of Syria have signed an agreement with al-Julani of the fanatic ISIS group that have been killing the Druze and the Kurds and others and Christians. And don't forget, al-Julani is backed by the Turks. It makes no sense to make a deal with al-Julani as long as the Turks are promising to wipe out the Kurds. And yet the Kurds made an agreement with Julani. So I'm watching maybe this is just like a chess game, but I'm predicting at some stage things will melt down between the Turks and the Kurds. And then the Kurds again will go back to the idea of statehood. And it was on Israeli TV that there would be a corridor going from Al Suwaida, which is the Druze area and Israel, up to the Turkish area. And that would be a corridor for aircraft and for a highway. And basically, half of Syria would not be in Syria anymore. It would be the Druze state and the Kurdish state. So it will be interesting to see what happens with the Christians. But the Kurds, the Christians, the Druze, the Shiites. It was on TV also yesterday. A woman from Tartus or Latakia, a Shiite Alawite woman, was begging Netanyahu to intervene on behalf of the Shiites and to protect them from the crazy ISIS groups. So things are very much in flux in Syria. Don't forget, we Israelis really don't want to go with all our army into Syria. So we're trying to figure things out in such a way, a modus vivendi, that all the different groups in Syria can work things out and stop the massacre of the Christians and the Shiites. Maybe the Druze also, but I think the Druze are okay because they're protected by Israel. So all of this is something we're watching. I think that we are also watching what is going to happen with Iran. And I don't know. I'm thinking if the Houthis do send their missiles to Israel tonight and tomorrow, this might be the trigger, because they're backed by Iran. This might be the trigger that will bring about an Israeli attack on Iran. My personal dream is that the government in Iran, in Tehran, the Ayatollah government, the crazy Revolutionary Guards government, that this government will be overthrown and that we will find a new pro-Western government in Iran. I don't know. From the little I know about Iran, the Shah died of cancer in Egypt, and his son is ready to lead. But I don't know how democratic he would be. Don't forget, Iran is also a country that has Kurds, it has the Azeris, it has Baluchis, it has Arabs in the southwest. Either Iran embraces everyone and brings about democracy and a new government, or Iran will explode into fragments. The Azeri province will join Azerbaijan. The Kurdish section will join Iraqi Kurdistan. I still see a congealing of the different Kurdish groups in Turkey, Syria, Iran, and Iraq coming together to form an empire, a Kurdish empire. All this, though, is still a dream, but they did show on Israeli TV a map which brings the Kurdish state all the way up to the borders of Iran. And once you bring the map of Kurdistan up to the borders of Iran, it's only logical that the Kurdish province in the north of Iran would also break away and join Kurdistan. And if that happens, I'm sure the Azeri province will also break away and join up with Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan would grow in size, and with all their oil, Azerbaijan is very rich. And I think we would be seeing another air route flying from Kurdistan up through Azerbaijan, north into Kazakhstan and into different stands, to Russia, to China. So Kurdistan theoretically should have two air routes, one going north through formerly Iran, and the other would be going west over the Mediterranean through Israel. That would be, of course, in cooperation with the Druze. I see, like, I don't mean in a Christian sense. I see it as a messianic sign of the future. All these different majority groups and minority groups were being hassled and attacked and killed by Sunni Muslims. All of this will change, and the map of Syria will change. The primary problem I see is that the Turks will send their army into Syria to back al-Julani and his ISIS group, and then we're going to have the Turks on our border, which is an Armageddon war. So things are like waiting to happen here in the Middle East. I've been here 2 years in Israel without traveling to the States, without working, without making a living. I'm just living on Social Security, which is not fun. This is not easy for me. And I really can't leave until after the gates of hell have opened with Hamas and after Iran has been dealt with. These are two things that are pressing all of us. The instability, the insecurity, we don't know what's going to happen. But like I said before, we smashed Hezbollah in Lebanon. What we would have to do now is just wiping up. Because of what we did in Lebanon, Bashar al-Assad's regime collapsed, and the Sunnis took over. But the Sunnis are not good news either. So we might have to go into Syria. We don't know. Jordan is our next door neighbor. We have a peace agreement with them. We value the peace agreement, even though it's 70% Palestinian and Sunni. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens with Jordan. Egypt still has hundreds of tanks on the border with Israel. And I would say friendly advice. I love Egypt. I would say friendly advice to Egypt: don't make a stupid decision and attack Israel, because it'll be the last time you attack Israel. It'll be the last time you force Israel to take Sinai. We've taken Sinai so many times, and each time American presidents with the best of intentions for Egypt made us give it back. No more. So Egypt attacks us again. It's not going to be good news for Egypt. And again, I recommend you read Ezekiel 29, the whole chapter, and you'll know exactly. God says exactly in the prophecy what's going to happen. And it's going to happen. Because there's a reason God made Pharaoh's heart stubborn. So that's regarding Egypt. We are still waiting for all these things to happen so that President Trump can make a deal with Saudi Arabia. I don't know what kind of a deal he can do. And the reason I'm saying this is not because I lack faith in President Trump. I don't lack faith in President Trump. But I do lack faith in MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, the regent in Saudi Arabia, because the closer he gets to the U.S., the more that's going to cause the fanatic Sunni Muslims in Saudi to kill him and kill the whole family and create a new fanatic Islamic caliphate in Saudi Arabia, which will, of course, then flow over into Jordan, which means that the Israeli borders are going to expand again. And don't forget, our borders are expanded into Syria. I don't know exactly the map, but they don't show a map on Israeli TV. All I know is that there's something cooking, and the more the Turks probe into Syria, the more northward the Israeli military moves to confront them so that they would not be on the Israeli border. The Jews are with us. The Kurds are with us. The Christians are with us. I think the Christians, you cannot say they're with us. They are there trying to protect 2,000 years of history in Syria. But it may be that they will have to be with us to protect themselves. And the Yazidis were massacred by ISIS. It's the same ISIS that's running Syria now. So what happens in Syria will happen in Iraq. And again, the Israeli TV was showing a map of Kurdistan covering the north of Iraq also. So like I said before, I'm talking about Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and Syria. I don't know of any Kurds in Lebanon, but we do have Druze in Lebanon. And the Druze are very careful. The Druze are loyal to Lebanon, those Druze who lived in Lebanon. But I think that they were very, very much influenced by the bombardment by Hezbollah of the soccer field in Majid al-Shams, which killed 12 kids. This was like a breaking point for the Druze. And this wasn't ISIS. This was the Shiites. This is Hezbollah. So we're living in a very, very crazy neighborhood. And the alliances are, it's called the shifting sand of the Middle East. Alliances here shift constantly. So Israel does what it has to do. I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that we are expecting, at this stage, 100,000 immigrants to Israel, which is good news. I personally was expecting 500,000 or 1 million, and that could happen indeed if there is some major upheaval in the United States. If somebody kills Trump, and you know that there are people who want to kill Trump, who will be blaming the Jews? Because the majority of the Jews are Democrats. Even if the minority of the Jews are Democrats, they still be blamed. The fanatic Muslims in America are about 30, according to my calculation. They have a plan to kill the Jews. The neo-Nazis of the militia group have a plan to kill the Jews. The blacks of the Black Lives Matter want to kill the Jews. Antifa wants to kill the Jews. And I warned the president of Israel, Yitzhak Herzog. I warned the Israeli government, and nobody wants to hear what I'm talking about. But I believe there will be at some stage either collapse of the American economy, collapse of Wall Street. Something's going to happen, and everybody's going to blame the Jews, because this is what has happened in every country in the world in the last 2,000 years. I was always wondering to myself, when could something like this happen? We are there now. And I love President Trump. I pray for his long life, for his good health. I pray for America. As you all probably know, I work very closely whenever I can with American militia people and Tea Parties and all the good people, the right-wing people. But if something major comes down, I'll just be a footnote in history. So here I am in Israel, meanwhile, enjoying being in my home. No income. But we finished our mortgage about 2 months ago, so we're very happy about that. So, we're living, we're getting along barely. I really, really need to get back to the States and work. So I don't know when it'll happen. Let me get my pacemaker fixed in a few weeks. Let me get my sugar down. Let my doctor say, okay, you can go to the States. Just be careful what you eat. And the one thing that really scares me is I have a fetish about birthday cakes in America. The cakes in America are different than the Israeli cakes. The cakes in America are very light, with lots of creamy icing, which is what I love. I could eat the icing without the cake, but that'll shoot my sugar through the roof. So I have to be very careful to restrain myself when I'm in the States. And meanwhile, I know my sugar is coming down little by little, but the A1C12 is too high. So we'll see what my doctor says. May 1st, I'll do my blood test again. And I'll have a new pacemaker recharged for another 6 years, 7 years. And God willing, come to the States, be with you guys in Florida, get my van, have it fixed, make sure it works. And then drive to Texas and drive to California and drive up to Oklahoma and get all my merchandise transferred to a private home in Arkansas, which will not cost me anything instead of $500 that I'm paying every month. So I'm very excited. My health is good pretty much. And my wife hasn't killed me, so that's a good sign also. And meanwhile, I continue doing 3 Zooms a week, and very excited to wake up every morning, and I'm still alive. You know, I'm watching the news, and I'm seeing how many people have died who were my age or younger. Older, you say, okay, they're older, but you know, young people dying, actors and sports people, and here in Israel, we hear about people dying, young people. So every day is a gift from God. So I'm happy to be here, and I'll be happy to continue with you guys next week. Purim is coming up, I think, Thursday, Friday, but it's not a Shabbat holiday, so I can still do Zoom. And then a month later comes Passover. So I'm planning to be with Aaron on Passover, my wife and I, and then 1st of May is actually Independence Day in Israel. That's the Holy of Holies for me, because all of our family, about 70, 80 people, are out in the forest barbecuing, having a great time. It's once a year, so I'm always very, very much with my family on Independence Day. And then a day or two later, God willing, if there's no war or nothing crazy going on, I get on the plane and go to the States. So anyway, it's already top of the hour. We've done half an hour, and I'm free for questions if anyone has.
Avi, did you see the letter that apparently a group of Alawite clerics wrote to Israel, saying like, "Oh, we get it now. We want to be Israel's friend and come help us, and we'll receive you with open arms." And did you see that?
You're talking about the Druze in southern Syria.
Um, yeah, but I thought there was Alawite clerics that wrote a letter. Was it Druze?
We have 2 groups that theoretically want a good relationship with us. The Druze,
Mm-hmm.
who are basically isolated. There are
Mm-hmm.
400,000 Druze on Mountain of the Druze. Jordan is to the south, which is Sunni. Syria is more to the north. I have a city called Dara. Dara is Sunni, and it's between the Druze and Golan Heights. So it would be definitely better for the Druze to come under Israeli protection. The Kurds, because there's so many of them, 40, 50 million, the Kurds have their own system, I would say, in which the Kurds in Turkey are different than the Kurds in Syria. The Kurds in Syria are different than the Kurds in Iraq. The Kurds are not a united people. The one thing they know is that they are butchered by all the countries in which they live, and that Israel is their friend. But the question there that then is, how do they maneuver diplomatically to create a state, be allied with Israel? As I said before, there would have to be channels to which the Kurdish airlines can fly to the west or to the north. So that is something that has to be worked out. You have to remember what we have done, what Netanyahu has done in the last 14 months is a revolution. We have changed the map of the Middle East, and we haven't finished yet because we still have to watch what's happening with Iran. Iran may not remain united when all things are said and done. It might be that different provinces of Iran will break away, those which are not Persian. Persian are 50% of Iran. But the Jews have nothing to lose by being with the Jewish people. They're going to be coming into Israel to work. We are going to be protecting them. We're going to be paying salaries. We're going to be paying salaries to the Druze. We're going to give them arms so they can protect their communities. An interesting point, the Druze are not an expansionist people. They just want to be left alone. They're very much like the Jews. We don't want to expand. We want to take care of our own people and not be persecuted, not be slaughtered, which is what Muslims do. I would say also we have to watch very carefully what's going to happen with the Christians. It might be that the Christians and the Alawites, the Shiites who were allied until the fall of Bashar al-Assad, it might be that they'll come together again, together with the Druze, together with the Kurds, to form a new Syria and eventually push the Turks out, push the Sunni Muslims out. We don't know. There are too many questions which have to be answered, and they'll only be answered with time. Meanwhile, we need the Druze coming into Israel to work. We need them as soldiers protecting their area. So we will give them the money, salaries, we'll give them weapons, they'll be able to do all these things. And this will strengthen our relationship with the Druze in the Golan Heights. Don't forget, the Druze in the Golan Heights saw themselves as Syrians first. But that changed. There is no more Syria. They are not subjects anymore of a Sunni Syria. So the Druze of Israel, the Druze of the Golan Heights, and now the Druze of Suwaida, I don't think they want to have a country of their own. They just want to be protected by Israel, and they will be partners. But I would imagine it was the Druze who wrote the letter asking to be part of Israel or to be with Israel.
This was supposedly from Alawite clerics, and it starts out, in his name, Lord Moses, David, Jesus, and Muhammad, we the Alawite clerics issue the following statement. And then it goes on saying, basically asking Israel to partner with them and almost kind of demanding that the IDF come and protect them. But it was Alawite clerics supposedly sent to the foreign minister and Benjamin Netanyahu.
Who sent the letter? I didn't quite hear. You said a coalition of groups.
It says, we the Alawite clerics.
The Alawite, yes. This is what I said before, that the Alawites now are being slaughtered because the Alawites killed, their army of Bashar al-Assad killed 500,000 Sunnis and exiled 5 million Sunnis. Mm-hmm. So the bottom line is these Sunnis now who have overthrown Bashar al-Assad, they have blood on their minds. They want to kill everybody.
Right.
Because everybody was part of the Bashar al-Assad army. So they want, listen, vengeance is very Middle Eastern.
Right. So my question was, how do you think that will be received by the Israeli government as far as a partnership specifically with Alawite Muslims? Okay.
Very good question. I would say things will become clarified after the Iranian regime is overthrown. Because the Iranians are Shiite, or most of them, We are not against the Shiites. We're against the Ayatollah regime. So if we can bring democracy or a more liberal Shiite government in Iran, minorities. You have to remember the minorities in Iran have been persecuted. Christians, Laurie, you know what they do to Christians in Iran. The Sunnis who live in Iran are very persecuted. So it will have to be, there's a group called the Zoroastrians. This was the original religion of Persia. And they're terribly persecuted by the Shiites. The Baha'i are a heretical group. They're Muslim, but they're a heretical group in the eyes of everyone. And they're persecuted by the Sunnis and by the Shiites. Listen, Iran is not a democratic place. So for Israel to say, okay, we're going to protect the Alawites, we would have to, also Hezbollah is pro-Iranian. How are we going to protect our enemy? There would have to be a tectonic shift in the leadership of the Hezbollah, or Alawites, they're Shiites. So time will tell. Time will tell. But I can say Israel definitely is committed to defending the Druze. Israel is definitely committed to a good relationship with the Kurds. And the Christians, I don't know what to say, because the Christians have been allied with the Iranians and the Damascus regime. So there will have to be a change. And I'll tell you, the change with the Christians has to come from the churches. The churches are very anti-Israel. They're very anti-Semitic. I have to tell you, I've spoken about this before, I think, with this Zoom, that when they were discussing the Oslo agreements with the Palestinians, the mayor of Bethlehem, Elias Frage, came to Yitzhak Rabin and said, please, please do not hand over Bethlehem to the Palestinian Authority. And Rabin said, okay, get the churches to support it and we will keep you separate. And the churches said, no, we're with the Palestinian liberation cause. So the churches, actually, Catholic and Greek Orthodox, they worked against the interests of their own people. You know what happened? People just got up and left. Bethlehem today is 15% Christian, 85% Muslim. Whose fault is it? The churches. Bad leadership. So we're going to have to see changes in the leadership of the Christians in Damascus and changes of the Shiite leadership. And I don't know who these clerics are who wrote the letter. It's an interesting letter. I mean, it makes total sense. I've been saying over the years that Iran is making a very foolish mistake by attacking Israel. Iran was an ally of Israel under the Shah, and it should be returning to being an ally of Israel. Time will tell. Don't forget that the Shiites are 15% of Islam, and the Sunnis are 85%.
And Alawites are a tiny, tiny percent?
Alawites are part of Islam, a small part of the Shiites. I will say one thing, which will maybe will surprise you, Laurie. Turkey is, I would say, divided up into three sections. One quarter of the country, the southeast, is Kurdish. They want to break away. They're Muslim, but they're treated very badly by the Turks. The southwest corner of Turkey is Shiite Alawite, and they're 24% of the population, and they're treated horribly by the Turks. And so I would just say to the Turks, be very careful, because if the Shiite Alawites wake up and merge their forces with the Kurd, the Turkish regime is finished. On the other hand, if the Turks come in to wipe out the Alawites, which they might do, there's going to be a problem, because I hate to use the name Armageddon, but the Armageddon, I say, is hundreds of millions of Sunni Muslims coming to Turkey to fight Israel or to conquer Europe. I'm hoping to sit down one day and write the book. I'm writing my 8th book is about Turkey and the Armageddon and the Battle of Lepanto. So I'll have to see. I don't know. My brains are mush now with this war. I'm constantly addicted to watching the horrible TV, the horrible news, and it's scary. You get addicted to watching the news because it's your life online there. Did I answer your question, Laurie?
Yes, thanks.
I have to add one more point, Laurie. Bashar al-Assad was friendly. I'm telling you something now off the record. I mean, not really off the record. Bashar al-Assad made a deal with Israel. The deal was that if the Israelis would promise not to shoot down the plane in which he was flying to escape, Bashar al-Assad would hand over to Israel all of the secret weapons depots and Syrian military positions so that the Israeli military could take care of them, take them out before it was taken over by the Turks or by the Sunnis. Hafiz al-Assad, the father of Bashar al-Assad, was really hateful of Israel. The grandfather of Bashar al-Assad, the father of Hafiz al-Assad, was a Zionist. So there were Shiites in the northwest of Syria, Latakia and Tartus. These people are pro-Israel. How do you like that, Laurie?
It's crazy.
Yeah, the whole Middle East is crazy. I'm one of them, you know. Yes, Angela, you had a question.
My brain is also mush. Work it out. So after the agreement between the Syrian regime and the Druze, a new Syria flag was raised above the governor's building in the Druze city of Al-Shuaida. So do you think, after all, could it just be that the massacre of the Alawites by al-Jilani was a message? It's just sending a message to get all the minority groups to conform and align with him, align with his new government that he's trying to bring together. Obviously, it's been horrific what's been unfolding there. Just horrific. I mean, I saw they'd even crucified people. Just the most barbaric things went on. Meanwhile, Turkey is saying they're working for peace, but behind the scenes they're fully backing al-Jilani.
Correct.
And I just read something in a Turkish newspaper about a statement being made saying, could the EU make Turkey great again? Because they need Turkey within NATO under the current climate. And I think that I read something some time ago that Turkey intends to demarcate maritime boundaries with Syria, sort of like an agreement they had similar with Libya way back in 2019. I mean, so he's accusing Erdogan, of expansionism regarding Syria, but at the same time, he's wanting this maritime boundaries, and to enhance, I presume, it's to enhance energy exploration. So he wants controlling hand in Eastern Mediterranean energy. So what's your take on this? Do you think I'm way off here, or is that what he's really up to?
Read my book. One of these days, I'll write it. The Battle of Lepanto in 1571
Yeah.
was a slap in the face to the Ottoman Turks, and they were so angry that they forced the Christians to rebuild the fleet for them. The Christians rebuilt it. And in addition to boot, the Christians handed over Cyprus to Turkish domination.
Yeah.
Cyprus was never a Muslim area. It was always either Italian Catholic or Greek Orthodox. The Turks do have imperialist ambitions, which they claim as their own right. Don't forget, 1878 was the war in which the Turks lost and the British extracted from the Turk a 99-year lease on Cyprus. So count 99 years from 1878, you have 1997. Did I do my math? 1878,
I think so.
1977. 1977, the Turks said to the Brits, give us back Cyprus. But meanwhile, you have 500,000 Christians on Cyprus. What are the Turks going to do? Kill everybody? The answer is yes. What's new in Turkish history? So now, especially because of the gas that has been found underneath the floor of the Eastern Mediterranean, the Israelis and the Cypriots and the Greeks put together an alliance that this should be a partnership with the Greeks and the Jews. And the Turks said, hey, wait a minute, Cyprus belongs to Turkey. According to history, the Turks are right. I mean, it depends how far back you want to go. And I heard that the Israeli troops are in Cyprus, quote unquote, training with the Cyprus National Guard. And don't forget, 40% of the island is already under Turkish occupation. And my Greek friends, I've been in Cyprus 5 times, 6 times, and my Greek friend said to me, the Turks could take all of Cyprus in 24 hours. Now, if, as I believe to be so, if the Turkish Navy comes down and surrounds Cyprus to reconquer it, the Turkish fleet will be completely sunk by the Israeli fleet. This will spark an Armageddon war. But Israel cannot allow Cyprus to become part of Turkey because it would destroy our gas infrastructure with the Greeks, our relations with the Greeks. The Greeks would be wiped out. And also our aircraft will not be able, El Al will not be able to take off from Ben Gurion Airport and fly west because Egypt will block off half and the Turks will block off half. So this is an existential threat to Israel.
Yeah.
So Israel will not allow the Turks to take over the Eastern Mediterranean. And like I said before, I would put my bets on the Shiite Alawites of southwest Turkey to rise up against Turkey with the backing of Israel. So this is something which may be unavoidable. If the Turks decide to attack Israel, because Al-Julani is all the way down on the Israeli border. The Turks are on the Israeli border. The Turkish army could just flow right into Syria, and within a day they could all be on the border with Israel. Right. So this is basically a summary of my 8th book, which I haven't written yet, but I keep thinking about this all the time. So when the Turks say, oh, we're going to make peace, I mean, that's like a bully coming, okay, you make peace with me or else I'll beat the crap out of you. You know, that's how they say in America.
Yeah.
So it could be that there are those people who say, well, okay, we're going to make peace with the Turks. Nobody believes it.
No, I mean, do you think Turkey is working or to try to weave some solution with Libya, for like a political unity with that territory?
No, I mean,
So,
Libya has a very small population. I mean, maybe there could be something cooking, but that would, the Egyptians would not be happy with that. And the Egyptians are right next door to the Libyans.
yeah,
By the way, I wanted to add another thing. If the Shiite Alawites pop up against the Turks in southwestern Turkey, and if the Kurds in southeastern Turkey, and the whole south of Turkey is in rebellion, well, now I don't think Russia is capable of anything. But excuse the expression, the wet dream of the Turks, of the Russians, is to take Constantinople. And Bulgaria is right there on the border.
mm,
I mean, we're talking about civilizational wars of thousands of years. This is, the Turks' history began in 1002 with Alp Arslan, so
yeah,
my brain is boiling over all these different equations and,
yeah,
things that could
yeah,
happen. But the Russians, the Turks want to go from the Atlantic to China. The Russians want to conquer, Constantinople and Eastern Europe. The Poles, Poland, and my mother's family was from Poland. My grandfather fought in the Polish army and the Soviets. They're going to wipe out Poland. If they succeed with Ukraine, they'll come after Poland next.
yeah,
And so they have a mass mobilization in Poland now.
yeah.
So I
Dangerous
don't know. I
times.
don't know. I will say another thing also. Now I'm really going crazy. I think, did I mention about the Soviet military academy, and they were talking about the threat of China to Russia? Did I talk about that?
I can't remember. I don't think so.
I think I spoke on Thursday
Oh,
to the other group in Houston. Anyway, so what I wanted to say was that this is not a joke. I mean, this is something that really happened. There is a Soviet, a Russian military academy, and the lecturer was a very senior officer in the Russian army, and he's explaining to the cadets that the Chinese outnumber Russia 10-1. If the Chinese outnumber Russia 10-1, you would think that it's impossible for Russia to defend itself, and that China could overrun and retake all of eastern Russia. In other words, the territories in eastern Siberia, all the way to the Vladivostok. And but then the teacher of this group was saying, but the Israelis, they are outnumbered 10-1 by the Arabs, and the Israelis win every time. And so one of the soldiers very naively asked the question, well, what do we have to do to get, a few million Israelis to come live in Russia? And then Russia for sure can defeat the Chinese. I don't know if you understand this crazy logic. If China is such a threat to Russia, I'm talking now as a Russian. Let's say I'm a Russian, okay? The threat to Russia is from China. It's not from America. And now I'm going to say something completely crazy, completely off the charts. Could it be that President Trump is signaling to Russia that the United States and the West will help Russia in a war against China? In other words, what would happen to Russia if China decided to take half of Russia, and Russia would be totally unable to defeat the Chinese? The whole military of Russia has been hollowed out by this war in the Ukraine. 1 million people died.
yeah.
So I don't know, maybe President Trump has some plan that nobody is even thinking about. Maybe that's why Ukraine is kind of like not so important. Russia being taken over, half of Russia being taken over by China, this is a problem for the West.
Mm. And China have also, had skirmishes in the past on with India.
This is also a possibility. I mean, China is in its expansionist phase,
Yeah.
in its final stages now. And you know what? Forgive me for being silly. What I'm going to say now. I love China. I love Chinese people. I love Chinese food. I hate the chopsticks. I have nothing against China. Their whole population is in 4 valleys. Have you ever seen the Chinese flag? It has one big star with 4 small stars. The small
Yes.
stars represent the 4 valleys. And if you drop atomic bombs on those valleys, all the cities downstream die. It would be the end of China. And I don't know, maybe there are some neocons in Washington, that's their dream. I don't know. I don't want to hurt the Chinese. They're like 1.3, 1.4 billion people. And so is India.
Mm.
So we're living in a scary time.
Yeah, we sure are.
I just think that if Russia could fix its crazy leader, its whole business, and align itself with America and the West, and I said this, I was in Moscow. I said this on Radio Moscow in Russian, that America is not your enemy. Europe is not your enemy. Israel is not your enemy. And you know what? I'll tell you something. I'm changing subject a little bit. I don't know if you know this or not, but Putin pays the salaries of all the rabbis in Russia. There is part of the Russian budget which supports the Jewish community. Putin is not anti-Jewish. He's not anti-Israel either. I mean, he's concerned about what he thinks is the right thing for Russia. The Ukrainians, on the other hand, have never voted in favor of Israel in the United Nations. Never. 150 votes. Ukraine was either against Israel or neutral.
Yes.
The Ukrainian government is anti-Semitic.
Yeah, I know.
And by the way, the Ukrainian government does not pay salaries to the rabbis. So, I have a sister who fights with me all the time. She says, "Oh, we're from the Ukraine originally. My father's family is from the Ukraine. We should support the Ukraine." I said to my sister, "Listen, things are not simple like you think. And Russia is a 2-hour flight from Tel Aviv. And my sister is in Indiana somewhere. So you can't compare it in any way. So, we in Israel maintain a very neutral stance regarding Russia and Ukraine. It was, Soviet Union once. I don't know. I'm sorry to confuse some of you, maybe.
Like I say, my brain is mush these days, trying to understand it all.
Yeah, my brain is mush, but I did have a cup of coffee before the program, so my brain is kind of straightening out now. That can be dangerous.
Oh, thank you, Avi. Thank you.
My pleasure, Angela. I enjoy you and Lori the most with the questions, but there are other good people also who ask questions. That's good.
Oh, bless you.
Any more questions, please?
Avi, what about the hostage families, the ones who there are still hostages? I mean, how are they taking this kind of new tough talk and tough stance toward Hamas?
You know what? I have to tell you, Lori, not my favorite expression I was taught in the Army spokesman's office was that in the Middle East, you learn to expect the unexpected. And this unexpected business is driving everyone crazy in this country. On the one hand, they're talking about, as an example, they're talking about a 60 or 50-day ceasefire and give us back 10 live hostages. And if you ask me, I'd probably accept it if I were Netanyahu. But the problem is you have the ultra-Orthodox are threatening to topple the government over the budget because of their refusal to join the military like everyone else. And so Netanyahu, so that his government will not fall, has to bring in Itamar Ben-Gvir, who is ultra-right. And Itamar Ben-Gvir is threatening, unless Israel attacks Hamas and finishes them off. We can finish off Hamas in a month, but all the hostages will die. So what do you think? God forbid if you had family members who were prisoners. What would you do? We could take back 10, wait 50 days, and then we have to renegotiate for the remaining 10, which would be another 50 days, 100 days. So I'll tell you something very kind of crazy. President Trump wants this business finished with Gaza because he wants to turn Gaza into Singapore or the Riviera. But you got to get all the Arabs out of there. And you know what? Here in Israel, if I were a politician and I said that I'm, in favor of expelling or encouraging all the Gaza people to leave, I'd be put in jail. When I say that Allah is Satan and Islam is a criminal psychosis, I go to jail. I have a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland for doing this. And then Trump comes in and says, kick them all out. Who can put Trump in jail for hate speech? And it's not hate speech. Send them to Indonesia. Indonesia is the most logical place. It's all Sunni Muslim. They have islands. You can put all of the Gaza Arabs on these islands. They have plenty of water. They have fertile land. They have jungles. They can develop it and make it do whatever they want with it. It's not, when they say send the Gaza Arabs to Bosnia, for example, the Serbs wouldn't agree. The few Jews that are there would be killed. You have to send the Gaza Arabs to places where there are no Jews who will not be killed by the Muslims. Wherever the Muslims go, they're going to kill the Jews. That's why I keep talking about a Holocaust in the U.S., because you've got 30 million Muslims in the U.S. and they want to kill all the Jews. In the end, I said at the beginning of this Zoom, I said that there will be 500,000 or a million or 5 million Jews moving to Israel with their Christian spouses. I get censored here in Israel. How dare I say there will be Christians coming into the country? But that's what's going to happen because nature is such that Jews marry Christians. We hate them till we marry them. 80% of Jews marry Christians. So are we going to say, no, only the Jew can move to Israel? The Jew will bring the Christian spouse and the children to Israel. Our population is going to double and triple. I mean, and I feel terrible because I'm all alone. Nobody wants to talk to me. But I think what I'm saying is logical. I mean, the Christians understand what I'm saying. Are you guys still talking to me?
Yeah, I wanted to. The something I'm curious about. This is Annette.
Yeah.
Like they keep saying, well, if you don't bring back the hostages, we're going to do all this and that to you. But whatever they do to them will also be done to the hostages because the hostages are with the Hamas. If they bomb them, the hostages are gone. In fact, the Hamas even say that if they try to do anything, they'll kill the hostages. So it won't help, for whatever they do to them because the hostages will be gone also.
Then Netanyahu will be blamed by the left here in Israel for sacrificing 59 people when we could have, waited a little, get them all out, and then after that attack Hamas.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
So,
that's what
listen,
Trump
there's
is.
different approaches.
Yeah, well, that's what Trump is saying. If you don't do it, this is what we're going to do. But whatever they do, they'll do to the hostages too. Also, I was wondering about those the lady and the two babies, and they brought back the bodies, but they found it was not the woman's body on DNA.
No, but they finally did find the body.
Oh, they did find the body?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
they sent it later?
the next day.
Oh, they
Because
did. Oh.
our pathologist checked it out and said it's not the same person. And so the next day they found the body. Listen, they have these caves which are full of bodies. And I have to tell you, you should know, everything that gets sent to Israel with the dead bodies, it gets analyzed. They find DNA from other bodies that are in the sand, and so we know other people also who are dead.
Oh, so I didn't know they found the body. Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
no,
know
they
that.
got the body back. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I know they had a big parade, and with them, but I didn't know they got her back. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm. I know the husband is alive.
Yeah, the husband is alive, and it's horrible. He lost his wife and two babies.
Yes, that is horrible. That is horrible. Mm. I can't imagine what they went through. Horrible. Mm.
Thank you, Annette. I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
Avi, can I ask something about Iran? It's
Sure.
been reported that they're very close to weapons grade, or they have enough to make 6 nuclear warheads.
Yes, we got that report here in Israel also.
Right, so it is true then, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why President Trump is not going to object too much that Israel should attack. I think that President Trump said, that he will not start any wars. He's trying to end the wars, but that doesn't mean that Israel would not be free to do it. Israel will probably have to do it.
Yeah.
But at least, we don't have everything being shut down by President Biden and the deep state.
I think there's going to be a United Nations Security Council meeting over Iran's expansion of that uranium.
The problem is with the Security Council, the Russians and the Chinese would veto it.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Thank you.
I want to say my pleasure, but these things are not pleasurable.
No, it's extremely worrying. They're just so unstable. It's unconscionable that they should have a nuclear weapon.
Yeah.
Is that a wrap for today?
Okay, Lori, I think it is. And God willing, we should be meeting on Tuesday, a week from today. And I think we are still not yet on what do you call it, on summertime in Israel. So it will still be 2:30 my time.
Right.
Yeah. I'll be ready.